Hello and welcome to another Voice by Maddyness podcast. This is the last episode in this sextech series, but what a show we have for you. Today's guest is Emma Sayle, the founder and CEO of the infamous Killing Kittens. Since 2005, Killing Kittens has evolved and expanded beyond organising parties. It now has an online community of over 100,000 people chatting, flirting and socialising all over the world. And this all came from a 3-day bender in Ibiza. I cannot wait to hear this story, so thank you so much for joining us today, Emma.
Thank you for having me.
I've been on an absolute run, and anyone listening will probably know I've been on a crazy run of sex tech. And if anyone has a quick look at my internet history, it's crazy the past week. So it's been really interesting, and I've been so excited to have you on the show. And we're going to get to all that sexy stuff. But I called a few people that know you just to kind of chat. I don't. Yes, I don't like listening to other interviews and watching other interviews. I kind of like calling people that know the guest.
Yeah.
And somebody said to me yesterday, I was like, I have Emma on from Killing Kittens, and she said, she went silent for a second and said, she's going to eat you alive.
Nice.
I was like, what? So that's a first. So I don't know what to expect today. But,
you know, most people would take that as like, you know, as an insult. I take that as a real compliment.
You're loving it. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, whoever you are.
Yeah, I'll tell you when we finish this.
Okay,
I won't expose her on the podcast. But we're going to get on to Killing Kittens and everything there. But for context, what was your life like before Killing Kittens? Was it in the sexual arena? Was it completely different? What was it like?
No, it wasn't in the sexual. It was completely different. It was just a very curious early 20-year-old who kind of had serious body hang-ups and eating issues and just insecurities and that whole sort of shame. I'm 42 now, so it was back, you know, when you know, the whole slut shaming and everything. So it was just sort of I looked out into the world of sort of girls who were really free, thinking, oh, I wish I could be like them. No, yeah, it was nothing to do with the sex world. I was working in PR and the city for a bit, and I was a sports nut. I still am a sports nut. So yeah, totally different world.
So and that's interesting. And I love speaking to founders that came from a world that's completely different than what they've been successful in. How did you go from, you know, being a bit curious or being very curious and then being in PR to founding Killing Kittens? How did that gap get bridged?
Do you know what? It wasn't. That's the thing. People look at it and go, because you're in the sex world, it must be because you're some sex crazed nymphomaniac, and that's what you do. But I've always been, since I was little, I've always fought and challenged the status quo and everything if I don't think something's right. And the whole way women are treated and girls are treated has always been something that's just really pissed me off. And I grew up in the Middle East and kind of watched the way, you know, women were treated out there whilst being at boarding school over here, where actually you got taught, you know, to go out there and rule the world and you could be whatever you wanted to be. So I kind of had a real kind of mishmash of messaging. And it just always bugged me. And it always bugged me, the messaging of like, you know, boys can do whatever they want and it's just boys being boys and stuff. And girls were sort of, you've got to be seen and not heard and not be bossy and not be opinionated. And it just sort of, that just really pissed me off. And then early 20s, working in finance and with some harassment issues and stuff. And I just, again, it was like, this isn't right. And started doing the PR for helping with the Erotica exhibition, where I just saw, that was kind of my entry into the adult industry, and just met some amazing people. But one of the big things that jumped out was the adult world, again, was a real male world with loads of women in it, but it was all being run by men. From porn, even the lingerie and sex toy brands, then where they were like, it's for women's pleasure, this is for women. But you're like, well, yeah, but you're a man. You're a male founder with male directors, and it's men telling the world how women should behave and what is good for women. And that annoyed me. So it was just something that kind of that's always been in me going, this isn't right. And yeah, so that with Killing Kittens, it was kind of seeing all that happening and then being out and about in London in a group that I was kind of you know, socially out and about with was a well-known North London posse, which was in the media a lot for, and the women in it were very kind of strong women sexually, and they were in the media a lot for kind of all swapping husbands and boyfriends and being, you know, out there. And I saw these women and just thought, you are amazing. They were kind of my heroes, and just thought they just own it, and they're not being judged, but they're just owning their sexuality, and they're not afraid. And it was actually at a wedding in Ibiza with this group, where no one had really slept for about 3 days, and that's when I just thought, right, that's it. I want to create a world. It was kind of a world that in my head I wished I could be in. And had the confidence to behave, and that's how I thought the girls, you know, should be able to behave and have that opportunity to behave. And I wanted to create a world with women very much at the core, owning their sexuality and making the decisions and not being judged, and this just a community. And yeah, that's how Killing Kittens started. So what started with sort of a party once a month, kind of masked, ending up with lots of sex going on.
Yeah.
And you know, that's the bit people want to hear.
Yeah, of course. That's why I'm here.
Exactly. Everyone's
No,
like, say it, orgies.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Obviously the sex that's really interesting, right? But what's also interesting, what age did you move from the Middle East to the UK?
20. So my final year of just as I was in my final year at uni, so 21. Was when my parents moved back. So I was always backwards and forwards between either school term time or uni term time, and then going back out to wherever I was.
What's interesting about that is you didn't see what was going on in the Middle East and then come to London and say women are treated so much better here. This is great. You still were like, this is bullshit.
Yeah, and actually, and it still is, because that's the irony. Is I look around me now and I see, I would say over 50% of my girlfriends are in relationships with really controlling men. And some of them
really?
don't. Yeah, well over 50%, to be honest, because some of them don't see it. Some of them it's subtle. It's that coercive control. It's like little kind of belittling. It's that little, with girls kind of either feeling like they can't say they want to go out, or even with girlfriends, or when you're out having drinks and you can see them checking their phones because their other halves are kind of constantly texting them. And it might be kind of slightly passive aggressive behavior, so it's not obvious, but it's sort of, they can't fully relax because sort of the man focus. But then, you know, you get it the other way around. You know, women are as kind of, where are you, what are you doing? But there's still definitely a kind of unconscious bias in a lot of men that kind of the woman is sort of their territory, it's their possession, even though a lot of them won't admit it.
Because in general, if you look at social media, which we'll get onto later, and you guys do that really well, and you profit from it, and it's a big part of Killing Kittens, obviously. But if you look at social media and the narrative with that, it's usually the man wants to go out and have pints, and it's nag from the wife. That is the kind of the way it's portrayed.
Yeah,
but it's not in reality. That can be the case, but it's also the case the other way.
It can be the case with that, but the thing is, a lot of the time you get, you know, the guys go for the pints, but they, you know, that's just a given. They go, we're going for pints, as if to say it's not even negotiable, kind of thing. Whereas, you know, and a lot of women won't do the same thing. They won't say, well, I'm going for drinks with girls, or if they do, then they'll have, you know what I mean, they'll have the same messages. But often as well, I see girls who won't go for drinks with girls because they just don't want to rock the boat, and they know their other half's going to get shitty. But then you hear that their other half has gone off for a golf weekend. It's real double standards a lot of the time.
Is it insecurities in those boyfriends? Is that really what it is?
It's insecure men, male or women, who behave like that towards their other half. I always say that, you know, the irony is, you know, the ones that get questioned all the time, and normally the ones that will end up cheating, because if you don't feel trusted by someone, then there's that kind of sod it in your head. Well, they don't believe it anyway, so sod it, I'll just go and do it. Whereas actually, if you know, let someone be themselves and trust them, it's when they're least likely to do it.
The name, I have a hunch where the name came from, but I don't want to say it before you say it in case I'm wrong. If that went,
I think you're probably right. It's like a cyber slang for every time you masturbate, God kills a kitten. So
I was right.
yeah, if you're killing kittens, then you're just wanking away.
Yeah, flat out.
Exactly.
The
Yeah, I hadn't slept, remember, for 3 days when that name came up. So
do you know what's hilarious? I've been on tons of I don't really like going to them, but I've been to tons of kind of startup events, and it's like how to find your company name and all this sort of stuff, and you were just like wanking online, killing kittens, done. That's
done.
that.
Name, bosh. It's still, but what always surprised me, it's like 15 years on, that how many people don't ask me about the name. And every so often I still have days where I go, where the hell did that come from? How
Yeah,
have I been allowed to call a business that? But do you know, it's there. People always say, well, how can people find you? I'm like, there aren't many places called that. So if you Google Killing Kittens, you were pretty much top of the rankings on that one.
yeah, of course. So in a beat that you didn't sleep for 3 days, this all came about. So was the first Killing Kittens party in Ibiza? Was that could you say that was the first one? Was there one?
It was kind of it wasn't official. It wasn't a Killing Kittens party, but kind of the way the party ran out there was
Mm.
how they run. So it was just a pretty loose, wild setup.
Yeah, things have moved on a lot, right? 2005 this was, and things have moved on a hell of a lot. And you guys have done it incredibly well. Right now, doing something like Killing Kittens, if you launch it now, could go viral in a WhatsApp group and it could go absolutely insane. In 2005, what was it like? Obviously, it had the viral effect, but was it purely word of mouth whispers? Is that kind of
Yeah,
how it
no, it
spread?
was it was very word of mouth because actually it kind of social media wasn't there then. I think Facebook launched the same year. So or the year before or something. So yeah, the whole kind of digital marketing didn't really happen. So you didn't have any of those, you didn't have any of that social media and that kind of the viral thing. I think it was MySpace back then, but you didn't really use that for
Hmm.
this kind of thing. It was very much word of mouth, and also it was just old school. It was old school tabloids, really. I mean, that's where it'd be word of mouth, and then the Daily Mail would do an absolute classic blinder of a headline, and then and that got some more people. So it was very much old school kind of PR, but not pushing it out there, just incoming calls from the media wanting to write stuff. So yeah.
Interesting. I watched a Louis Theroux doc a couple of years ago about swingers and about sex parties. I don't know if you've seen it,
No,
but
I've heard about it though. Yeah.
yeah, it's really good. But there was this dynamic, and I think he went to two different swingers parties, but there was this dynamic that one was very much welcome everybody, and then there was another one that was most of the parties will everyone can come, but then oh no, sorry, it was limited. They limited their parties, this other group, but then they had what they called a dog party where they let anyone come, which isn't an ideal name for it, right? But what is the Killing Kittens mantra with this? Is it we welcome everybody? Do you have to be vetted, ranked?
So we vet people, but it's not a case of supermodel quality. We're vetting people. So everyone that comes to our events has to join up on. We've got a massive online, social network going on and the online community, and you have to sign up to the site and become a member there and be vetted. And the vetting is to ensure you're a real person, and also then you have to say your reasons for wanting to join the kittens world. So you've got to have the right intentions and the right reasons for wanting to come, and then you'll get through. So and then obviously and then some of the events we do, because of capacity and stuff, well, there might be certain age limits, but we generally don't, but we don't have we don't say no to a lot of people, but we have obviously the price point is there's a certain price point, so that stops a lot of people coming.
Mm.
And they have to go through the vetting process of holding up pictures just to prove they're real people and stuff, and the reasoning. So it's that kind of right headspace is the main thing when it comes to joining.
Yeah, because this is something, and you're in your 16th year, so you've nailed it. But this is something that could get completely out of hand, right? With the wrong type of people coming and the wrong vibe. I think we've
Yeah,
all
exactly.
thrown a party at one stage, and the vibe just hasn't been great, right?
Yeah.
And you're doing this 16 years and getting stronger and stronger. How do you keep that
Well,
positivity?
I mean, to be honest, the main bit is we don't let single men in. So we've always, it's always been about with women at the core, and we, as many women can come as they want, and couples, but we don't let. There's no single male tickets. Every man that comes has to be accompanied by a girl, and the main rule at the events is that men can't speak to any women they don't know. They have to wait for the girls to make the first move. So it immediately takes out that big kind of testosterone factor.
Mm.
The guys are relaxed because they're sort of there. Any guy there has come with a woman, so they're relaxed, and they're relaxed because they don't have to, get out there on the pool type thing that you get in most kind of social situations. That testosterone factor. And the girls are on their best because it's all about them, so they're confident. So yeah, it's that kind of mix of that dynamic, which is the key bit.
Mm. Has there been anyone pop up in the last 16 years? I'm sure there has been, but has anyone popped up in the last 16 years that you looked at and went, this is a bit of a threat?
Do you know what we've got every so often you get, and again it's the insecure male, who often it might have been their idea or they might have pushed it, but because it's not about them and it's out of their comfort zone and they're not in control, and it's that then they kind of, that I always say, an insecure person is the worst. It just brings out the worst in people, male and female. So the backs go up, and they can just get a bit arsey because it is just basically, that chimpanzee that everyone's got inside them, that as the flight, freeze or flee comes up, the heckles go up, and the animal comes out. So yeah,
Yeah.
we've had a couple of times like that where we just have to calm a few man folk down.
Yeah, of course. Can you tell us about the first party and what that was like?
Do you know what? It was in a venue that we still use once a month. And I think about 40 people. Yeah, about 40 people. And it was just really cool. It was just a very hedonistic sort of party. We still use that venue once a month, and now we just in that venue it takes it about 180 people. So now it's just more people, but very similar dynamic.
When did you figure out, obviously this from the outset, when you were in Ibiza, was your mindset, this is going to be my business, this is what I'm going to do for 10, 20, 30 for the rest of your life? Or was this, I want to throw some cool parties? And if so, if you wanted to be a business, when did you realize this is viable and profitable and let's go with this 100%?
It's what I wanted to do as a business. I very much knew it in my head when I had the logo designed. I wanted the 2Ks. I didn't want the whole wording, and I remember joking with the designer. I said I want it to be KK, because I want it to be like the M in McDonald's, because one day I want to be wearing, my own knickers with my own label in, and people to recognize the 2Ks like they do with the, yeah, it was always, I want something like the M for McDonald's. So in my head it was always a brand, with the kind of the parties as the first step. And from day one, we had a small online community, so a kind of very basic forum for anyone, any members to be able to chat in and stuff. So it was kind of, but I always had, no, it wasn't I never did a big business plan because I don't like detail. I'm shit with detail. I'm just big picture. So I always joked about it. It was like Stalin's 5-year plan. So in my head when I launched, it was like, right, in 5 years time, if it's still just one party a month, then maybe I'll just, I'll sack it off. If it hasn't moved on to sort of an online community and doing more than one event a month, then and so when we hit 5 years, and we were then, I was then launching in Manchester, and I had a nice little online presence going on. So then in my next, the next 5 years was, right, if I haven't hit international in 5 years time, and got this kind of online dating setup attached to it as well. So it was more kind of 5-year milestones to hit business wise, but it was very much in my head, this is my business, and it sounds weird, it was bigger than me. It's like, that's why I don't mind the abuse and all that kind of stuff, because it was just sort of, I just thought, this is my purpose in life and my mission, and this needs fixing in society, and I'm just the messenger. So yeah.
And it did scale internationally, and I think I owe you an apology on behalf of my people, because the only leak that's ever happened from a Killing Kittens party as regards pictures and videos happened in Ireland. Am I right?
Yeah, that was the big one. That was the
Mm.
big. There's been a few that have tried in London. But to be honest, after like Max Mosley successfully, ruined the news of the world, all that kind of privacy stuff of private parties, private members, we know you can't. Even if people subtly took pictures in one of the parties, no media is going to buy them. So,
Mm.
well, and what happened in Ireland should never have happened. And actually, we went for them lawyers wise because that was just totally illegal on behalf of that Sunday paper that did it.
What's the biggest difference for you if you look at back then in the early days? Obviously, you've moved towards a technology now in a big way. What's the biggest difference for you as a CEO of the business? What's the difference between now and then with what you do? Is it the same? Is it you're the big vision and this is it, or how has your role changed in Killing Kittens?
I mean, it's funny because it's gone more corporate, if that makes sense. And it kind of, it's a massive machine. And as I said, before we went live, it's sort of the online side of it is just this, it's just snowballed. And, I have an amazing business partner on that side he's a real strategist and detail and very kind of online ninja tech. And it's just all that nuts and bolts and that side of it. And so there is that real day-to-day corporate kind of feel on one side, but then on the other hand, what we're building is groundbreaking. People haven't done it and aren't doing it. So that kind of keeps the excitement and it keeps me involved because I have ADHD and I jump all over the shop and I get bored so easily. And if I'm not feeling a bit challenged or a bit creative and coming up with new stuff, then it would be something I'd go, do you know what? I'm not enjoying it anymore. But actually, because every day is different and new stuff, and I'm constantly looking and going, how about this? And other people in the business are, always coming up with ideas. And, we launched a new merchandise store last week. So that's kind of looking at new collaborations to kind of put on there. So to me, again, I'm still not bored. I'm still doing new things and new ideas. And but what's been amazing is that I don't have to deal with the nuts and bolts of a
Mm.
business. Which just, I always say to people setting out the business, you've got to be prepared to basically 90% of what you do on a day-to-day basis is going to be freaking dull. And the stuff that you did not sign up for when you wanted to launch whatever business is, because but now I've got people to do all that 90%. So it's great. So
Yeah,
I can really go out and just do what I love and actually do, we're doing a lot more talks and I love humans and like you doing these podcasts and stuff, you're probably the same. And like, you like speaking to interesting people. I'm not saying I'm interesting, but people who, I'm getting people's stories. It's sort of, we're doing more and more of those and like upping our kind of the YouTube side of it to speak to really interesting people in the world of sex. And my whole thing now is like normalizing those conversations around sex while having an amazing team that picks up the slack every day to just run the business.
yeah.
Again.
I spoke to I interviewed the founder of Huel. You know that meal replacement company.
Yeah, yeah,
I interviewed him. I went out to his office and spent half a day with him last or 2 summers ago, and he at the time stepped down or stepped aside as CEO and moved into a CMO position. And the press around it was very much, the founder has stepped down. But speaking to him, he said, I now don't have to deal with all the bullshit and the crap I don't like to deal with, and I just get to focus on what I love to do, which is the marketing. So it's a total win. He still has the same amount of equity,
yeah.
but he just gets to go into the office and do what he loves every day. Because it's very few people that start a business out of passion like you have that really love the nitty gritty shit. Really.
Yeah, exactly. And I know so many people and founders of businesses who are now like they're not even CMOs or they're not CEOs or CEOs. They're like the chairman or the chairwoman of the business. And loads of them have said, they've said that to me. They've gone, do you know what? When you get into that and you don't have to handle the day to day stuff. And I even had a conversation with my CEO and said, should I still be CEO? And he said, yeah, of course you should be. When you just kind of go, I don't really know I've never done that positions thing. So even in the last couple of years with everyone having positions and I am the CEO, I'm like, well, what does it mean? Kind of one CEO in one business is going to be different to one in another business. So, so it's sort of, we're a very agile team. So it's sort of, even if I have that position, I probably don't do half what a lot of CEOs do. there's probably other team members of mine that are doing that bit. So I don't think there's an exact job title as for a CEO.
Yeah.
It's all different.
What was it like in embracing technology and obviously going from a very physical business, literally, to an online community? I think was the online community came first. Was it that was your first kind of?
It's all, yeah, we've always had a basic forum online from day one of the business. So we've had about 5 different websites. So this new one we launched last summer, that's very much kind of an adult social network. It's amazing. And then we launched a tech in the kind of an app, a chat app. So imagine like the Facebook Messenger to Facebook is exactly it. So you can download the chat app, but you have to be a member of the big site to use it. But it's way more encrypted than like WhatsApp, and you can have video calls and you have group chats and stuff like that. So it's amazing. But it's weird because it's I'm not a tech person. I hate tech. I hate digital. I hate tech. I am an old school offline hustler, like humans. I'm out and about seeing humans face to face. And that's how I've always operated, and that's who I am as a person, and I'm never gonna change that. So to me, the tech and digital is just sort of, we are in the digital age, and it's just the tools you have to use to get by in life. Yeah, so kind of the irony of me being the CEO of a tech business is kind of lost on
Yeah,
me, really.
but again, it wouldn't exist without those foundations in the beginning and the community, and that's the most important bit. You can have all the tech in the world if you don't have a community, you don't have a business. Full stop, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And you guys have done it really well with the app. Obviously, going to a party, a male needs to bring a girlfriend or a partner or even a friend. They don't even need to be together, do
Yeah,
they?
yeah.
With the app, what's the principle with the Killing Kittens app?
So as I say, it's a chat app. So imagine like a WhatsApp.
Mm.
And but you have to be a member. So you can download the app, but you can only log into the app with your KK username and password. And then once you're in, there are official KK groups in that. And there's like couples groups, single girls groups, single guys groups. So you can request to join one of the chat groups, which have 100 up to 150 people, I think, are in each group. And we've got like community kittens who are girl members who kind of monitor the groups, and they're in there answering questions and stuff. But then you can also do direct messaging. So exactly like WhatsApp, you can do private messages, or you can create a group. And that's it. And then we have pre-party chat groups. So before we do parties, and that's the same for virtual parties, we open up 48 hours before a chat group for that party, for the attendees of that event can go into that chat. So yeah, but it's a lot more secure. You can't take screenshots of any of the chats like you can with WhatsApp and stuff. And that's it. It's just a chat app.
I haven't spoken to any founder of a business since the beginning of COVID and all that shit. I haven't spoke to any that their business hasn't been affected positively or negatively. People are no one has said to me, "Oh, COVID hasn't made a difference." It's either this has really helped our business scale and move along, or it's completely fucked us. I'm going to take a stab in the dark and say people not being able to go out, meet each other, date, have sex, that it had a positive impact on your community and the app and everything there.
Yeah, it's weird. It's a real, we've been in a real juxtaposition, because actually we could say both to that question. I could say it's really fucked us, because half our business is a massive of offline global events business that operates events all over the world, which is dead in the water and has been since the middle of March. Literally dead, and that will not reopen until there are no restrictions, until there's no social distancing. It's not something that can open up in like tier 3, tier 2, or tier 1 of all the bloody tiers. So that you could, that it's fucked us on that side. It's fucked that side of the business, but it's helped the other side of the business. So it's helped the tech and online side of the business. It's massively helped the fact that we were launching all that tech anyway last year. So it kind of, as a CEO, has said, it's sort of it's kind of a bit of a mixed blessing, but a blessing in disguise, that we've been able to basically focus 100% of our attention on the whole digital tech side of the business without the white noise of the offline events. going on, which is a lot. They are a lot of work. There's a lot of noise. There's a lot of logistics involved. I fly around all over the shop. It's busy. So if being able to shut that off, it just means everyone has been able to focus on the launch and rollout of all the tech digital side of the business. Plus, we know as soon as the restrictions are taken off that the first thing everyone's going to do is want to shag and stuff. So we have no issue. I mean, and that's not, us sort of thinking that's going to happen. That's based on looking back through every pandemic that's ever hit the world over the last thousands of years. What do people do in the years after? They have large amounts of sex. I mean, look at the Roaring Twenties and stuff. So yeah, there's no doubt in our minds that it's gonna get crazy as soon as allowed. So we're not worried about that. We're not worried about that. Sorry.
I have no doubt whatsoever. And of course, by the time that does come around, you have an even stronger business because everything focused online.
So so all the numbers are looking really good online. We were going through like figures today, and there's over 500,000 messages were sent in January on the new app. So
wow,
it's a lot. Yeah, so the stats are looking really good, and the uptake in online not just messengers but memberships and things. And we've moved all our education online. So we have kind of 1 to 3 webinars and masterclasses every week online, and they've massively increased. We're looking between December and January, and they've increased like 180%.
Wow.
On tickets to those. So yeah, it's great on. Sounds like I'm bragging, but you know what I mean. When you're dead in the water on the events front, I've got to brag about anything I can right now. So I'll take it. So we need that. Yeah, we need all of that to plug up the hole on the other side. So it's fine. We're in a really, really lucky position that we have the online digital side of the business, because I know so many people in events that are just screwed at the moment.
Did you raised money to go after the digital side? Is that right? When you raised
so we actually raised in 2018 and 2019. We raised $1 million to massively go for it on the tech and the growth marketing side of the business. And then I think the one you're talking about, which got a little bit of media attention last summer, was the raise in order to get the government fund, the future fund loan. You had to raise privately, and whatever you raised privately, the government matched with the future funds loan. So we needed that. We raised that to basically plug the events business.
Yeah. What was it like raising that capital?
Well, to be honest, I had my COO did most of the legwork for that one. So I'm not going to sit here and pretend I did it. But it was stressy, and it was you're in the middle of lockdown, and I've got 3 kids under 6 as well. So having that to the face, and also what's weird, and I think a lot of business people and entrepreneurs have said the same. We're so used to doing things our way, and how we want, when we want, and having that freedom, that even if things fail and you lose money, you take responsibility, and it's on your watch, and it's because of decisions you made and calls you made. And in the last year, it's out of our hands. It's got nothing to do with us. It's nothing to do with our business. It's got nothing to do with how we run our businesses. It's this is not on us. So it's very difficult and frustrating last year to have to do that raise for something that was just completely out of our control. Having really gone for it the last couple of years to raise money, to kind of raise money to then plug the hole of money lost because a global pandemic hits that is completely out of our hands. I mean, it was a hard mindset to be in, because you're really angry, just really angry and frustrated because you've got no control over it. But then you have to kind of dig deep to get that kind of drive and grit and determination that makes you that, the business person in the first place. We're all kind of eternal optimists, really. So you kind of have to dig into that to go right.
Did you go to did you just completely leave it up to your COO, or did you go to meetings with VCs?
No, well, we didn't do VCs. We didn't need a huge amount, and we went to our initial investors. we wanted to raise out 150 privately, so we went back to and we went to our members. So we don't have VCs in our investors at the moment, because we did seeders the first 2 rounds we did.
Oh, cool.
Because we have so many members, and we wanted our members to be part of it and feel like they own part of Kittens, rather than big swinging dick VCs out there.
Yeah, it's funny. I chatted to Michelle Kennedy from Peanuts.
She's great, yeah.
She's baller. She's class. But she was talking about her experience meeting VCs, and them, she'd bring an employee to a meeting with a VC who happened to be male, and the VC would just address her male employee and not her.
Always. Yeah, always.
Right? And it's terrible. But she loves it. She said, I love it because I know he's a dickhead. And
Yeah.
I don't, and then end of story, move on to the next one. And
Yeah, exactly.
She would prefer that than them faking like they respect her. It's kind of like, if they don't respect me, fuck them, next one.
Yeah, completely. And that's the thing. And now that's how I see it. And I'm not going to beg anyone to give me money. And that's why we chose to do our raises with our community. And so last summer we did exactly the same thing and went to some of our bigger, the members who had given bigger amounts and got them to pledge. So we went up to 170 through that, and then the government scheme, gave us backed us the other 170. Hence all the headlines of like Boris in bed with, all the classics. So
that was good for you, though.
It was really good. I mean, it was translated into 19 different languages around the world on that one. Yeah, it was funny. It was a crazy few weeks.
You've achieved so much when you look back at the chat we've just had. You've achieved so much since 2005. What's next? You've done the physical events. You've scaled them worldwide. You've moved into being a technology business, and then when this pandemic fucks off, you're back stronger than ever, right? Because you have a solid tech business, and people just can't wait to have sex again. What's next for Killing Kittens? What's your vision for it?
Well, to be honest, on the tech side, we having had so many doors slam in our face because you're adult. On the social media side, that's our big push, is normalizing the conversation around sex and providing that social network. And we're launching pages at the moment, which is a bit like Facebook pages. So brands and educators can have their own pages and they can push out their own events. And without worrying about being blocked by Facebook and stuff. So it's kind of, to us, we want to be like that other social network. So you've got your Facebook, you've got your Instagram, you've got your LinkedIn for business, and then you've got your KK for kind of that adult fun side of your life that you might not want your granny or your kids to see. So for us, a massive part of what we're pushing out on that tech side is the education side of it. And just normalizing it. And I want basically as many women in the world as possible, and men, just humans, to really embrace that side of themselves. Because I just think, when you're dealing with, it's part of well-being, and you've got your fitness and you've got your nutrition, and actual sexual well-being should be that third pillar. And it should be as normal as that. When you talk about trying out different fitness routines, different diets, you should be able to, in the same breath, talk about trying new positions or new sex toys without feeling embarrassed, because it's just sex. So that's kind of a massive push that we're doing on that side.
Yeah, it's not, because obviously I said before we started this podcast that I'm kind of on a big run with sex tech businesses. It really isn't helping normalizing it or helping people feel more comfortable about sex if it's a banned thing on social media. Yeah,
exactly. And also, it's not just a sex that's banned. It's still very, very biased on the female side of thing. I mean, you've got Viagra, I think it's Ronan it's called, massive like billionaire, unicorn company, which has millions of invested in it, but it's got 3 white middle-aged men as the founders, having Silicon Valley kind of throwing money at them. Then they're able to advertise on billboards in New York and the subway in New York, and Facebook lets them advertise there for erectile dysfunction, and that gets advertised also on normal TV. I've seen erectile dysfunction adverts at 7:30 at night flash up on my TV. But God forbid you try and talk about anything to do with female sexuality, even if it's like menopause or menstruation. no, blocked. So it's a real double standard still in the tech digital world when it comes to sexuality.
How is that justified by the social media platforms, or is it just we don't need to justify
It's not. They just ignore it. You can't.
Right.
Have you ever tried to speak to anyone at Facebook?
I have. It's a nightmare.
Literally, honestly, we've been trying to merge pages because someone forged a page under the KK name about 6 years ago, and we've been sending messages to Facebook saying that's not us. We need to merge the page. For like 6 years, nothing. So they literally couldn't give a shit, and really,
Yeah, and you're right. If you know those hedge funds and those VC firms who are backing that Viagra company, they probably have a bat phone to Facebook, right? It's like,
yeah, completely. And also it's men, and you just think you're talking about, erectile dysfunction it affects a tiny percent. So 50% of the world's population is men, and erectile dysfunction affects a tiny percentage of that. So you're talking about something that is it's not a big, global need across everyone. It's a tiny thing needed, and it's still a unicorn billion-pound business. You look at something like menstruating or menopause, that's 50% of the world's population that's going to affect, and yet you're still not going to get funded. It just does not make sense.
Have things, do you know what, this was supposed to end 10 minutes ago, but it's too interesting. Have things changed in a more positive way since the Me Too movement? Has things gotten better since then?
Do you know what's weird? It's a double-edged sword, really, in that it has got better. It has got better on one hand, but then it's got, in the last few years, and Trump, in America, it has got worse. The censorship has got a lot worse in the last 3-4 years. Like, we've watched it massively, and we've been launching in the States and looking into everything. And the massive, the censoring on social media has got a lot worse. We were fine, like on Instagram, but come September, we've been shadow banned. We've been blocked from doing live chats and stuff massively. I mean, it's huge. So there's the censorship across platforms, but I mean, that's not just sexual. I've watched massive censorship in the last couple of months when it's come to COVID and anti-lockdown and stuff like that. Anyone that speaks out anti-lockdown is getting YouTube channels taken off and stuff. So it's kind of I think just censorship across the board just needs to be regulated a bit. They've gone a little bit power happy in the last few years. So
but you know what? You're in a position that you own your audience, and the members love Killing Kittens, and that's what it's all about. And you own that. That's yours, and you're in a position that no one can take those members away. And long may it continue. Look, thank you so much, Emma. Really appreciate you jumping on. And I could literally sit here all day and talk.
No worries.
And I'm sure the audience loved it. So best of luck with the future, and I'm sure you can't wait for those parties to start up again. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for listening to today's podcast. That is the final episode in this Sex Tech series. If you did enjoy the series, please do go on and give them a good rating, because it really helps us get more people listening to the podcast. Also, make sure to subscribe for Maddyness podcast, because we have another series coming soon and you're going to absolutely love it. Thank you so much for listening to all these episodes. We really appreciate it. Don't forget to go on and check out the articles to complement all these podcasts on maddyness.com. We'll be back with a new series soon. Until then, stay safe.